Why don't we go back to the year 2002? Why don't we go back to the year 2002 for a minute? If I were to say to you, if you know this show and you know the history of the event and you know the history of the Smackoff, if I mention that year, what is the first thing that comes to mind? I'm talking about a guy in his prime. A guy in his prime. Remember when this guy made this call in 2002?
The thing I value most about my participation in the jungle is the fact that I get access to people who matter in the world of sports. People with a lot of juice clones, centers of influence like Rome, like Costas, and like my new friend Don Grapes Cherry, because after all, clones, Grapes did refer specifically to Virginia in his first appearance in the jungle. So in the final analysis, clones, I have the distinct honor of referring to these gentlemen not only as my friends, clones, but more importantly, as my colleagues. Jim, thank you for your time. Aloha means goodbye. War Commonwealth of Virginia, War State Sports Radio AM 910 in Richmond, War being fitted with the 46 athletic green jacket to accommodate my 18 3/4 inch pipes. War Mr. Personality J. Stu without the nicks and cuts of a blade. And until next time, Jim, good night now.
2002. Jeff in Richmond. He won it all. Could he win it all again? Could he run that thing back in 2020? I don't know, but I got good news. I don't know if he'll be here a week from Friday, but I know he's here right now. We go to Richmond. The former champ. He won it all in 2002. Jeff in Richmond. My man Jeff, how are you?
Jim, thanks for the vine, and thanks for the time. And Jim, if you'll indulge me, Jim, for a brief moment, I want to give a shout out, Jim, to the millions, Jim, and the millions of my peeps across the fruited plain, Jim, and say, Jim, that finally, Jim, the dirtiest player in the game, Jeff from Richmond, has come back to the Jim Rome Show. By the way, Jim, if you think Arizona Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury has a fresh crib, you should see my setup here in the great Commonwealth of Virginia, Jim, the 804. Jim, how tired and played is it to see 86-year-old Lizard Larry King, flesh on a stick, still pimping product on cable TV? Jim, my man's pimping vitamins, prostate meds, credit reporting services. Remember back in the day, Jim, when the Lizard, the hunchback of CNN, was actually considered fairly fresh and hip? You remember those days, Jim. New York, hello. Chicago, hello. Sacramento, hello. Memo to Lizard Larry King, flesh on a stick. Hey, Lizard, maybe if you spend a little less time pimping product and a little more time with your family, maybe you wouldn't have cycled through 8 marriages, Jim. That's right, 8. And his latest wife, Shawnee, who's 30 years his junior, was actually quoted in TMZ, and I quote, Larry was actually a pretty good husband early on. He kept his mouth shut and his checkbook open. And by the way, Jim, Shawnee had a nickname for the Lizard, and it wasn't Honey Bear, Sweetie Pie, Jim. It was Big Old Cash Machine. Finally, Jim, very quickly, for 20-plus years, Jim, Jeff from Richmond's been swinging from a jungle vine, and I'm proud to say, Jim, that we're friends, we're colleagues, and we're business partners for 20-plus years. I want to get real with you for a minute, Jim, because on September 11th, 2001, the United States suffered a terrorist attack that changed the world forever. And, Jim, in the days and weeks and months that followed, you helped us get through those dark days, Jim. You helped us laugh a little and smile a little. Then, Jim, fast forward, 2008, 2009, the financial crisis. Jim, once again, your program helped us regain a sense of normalcy and helped us move forward. Now today, Jim, here we are, Jim. We are, Jim. Your lettuce is flowing. You have no face cake slapped on your grill. You're stepping up to the plate each and every day, not only in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, But now, Jim, the George Floyd tragedy, Jim, you're leading from the front. You're doing it with dignity and grace and humility. The bottom line is this, Jim. I have never, Jim, and I mean ever, seen a more essential frontline worker, Jim, than James Philip Rome. So, Jim, as a result, we have your back for Smackoff 26, Jim. All the heavy hitters and Matt from L.A. are coming out to play, Jim. On June the 19th, Jim, all the five-tool ball players and Jerome from Houston are coming out to play, Jim. On June the 19th, all the legitimate jungle legends and Mark from Boston are coming out to play, Jim. And on June the 19th, all the sports talk savages and Chris from Toronto are coming out to play, Jim. In closing, a la Baker Mayfield, Jim, Jeff from Richmond is symbolically planting the Commonwealth of Virginia flag in your studio. I will take my respect on June the 19th, Jim. Jim, Jeff from Richmond's coming to the Smackoff. Hell's coming with me. The only question I want to ask the morally bankrupt clones is this, Jim. Who wants to walk with Jeff from Richmond? Jim, thank you for your time. Aloha means goodbye. War Commonwealth of Virginia. War number 45, Donald from Manhattan. War Beaks from Studio City, completing the weight loss challenge, but still tipping the scales at well over $3 billion. War Mr. Automatic J. Stu, without the nicks and cuts of a blade. And until next time, Jim, good night now!
Welcome back, champ. Jeff from Richmond. That was an RSVP. The Smackoff did not start early. That was not a Smackoff call. That was an RSVP from the 2002 champ, Jeff in Richmond. That is good news. I love that he's going to be here a week from Friday. Reaction clones. Do you think that guy's game travels? Do you think it carries from 02 to 2020? Could that guy go nearly 2 decades between wins? It would be an amazing story. He still has the heat. He can still bring it. 1-800-636-8686. He was the original polarizing caller. Man, nobody gets more reaction than this guy. Love and hate on both sides. Already reaction. Bill Radka, love him, hate him. Jeff in Richmond is entertaining. Hell yeah, he is. Kyle in Clyde tweets one thing. War Jeff in Richmond. Chris Ice tweets, classic Jeff, flesh on a stick. Wow. Just wow. Yeah, how about that? Unsolicited crackback on flesh on a stick. Mike in LFK tweets, is this call over yet? Yes, it is. It got racked. Stucknut. Unofficial Jim count. 47. Hey, say what you want. I'm hyped. I'm hyped that he's back. He's won it. He's got a forever invite. This guy can make a real difference a week from Friday. And it would be an amazing story if he can do it. Bella B is in. Rack that call. Rack everything about that call. Johnny Scabs, quote, the only thing better than hearing Jeff in Richmond is sleeping on a bed of nails. Honestly, I'm not sure there's anybody in the jungle that gets that kind of reaction as a caller, good and bad. But in terms of total reaction, there isn't a single caller to this show that gets as much reaction as Jeff in Richmond. I didn't know that was coming. That's a great, great way to start. Jeff in Richmond, not only calling, but RSVPing for Friday. Russell tweets, my God, that was a terrible call. Time to go back into retirement, Jeff in Richmond. Hey, Russ, that was not a terrible call. I don't rack terrible calls. It's my favorite thing about Jeff. How can a guy be both the best and worst caller ever? Looking at your tweets and emails, he's that. He's both the best and worst caller ever. Nobody gets more reaction. David Reese is in. Quote, I feel like it's 2002. Welcome back, Jeff. Modern Rick tweets, That content was hella weak, man. Respect to the OG, but wow, that was long and boring. He got half that right. It was long. Alvy's like, dude, 5.5 minutes long. Seamus, 27 tweets. Rome, Jeff still sucks. Which call was 2002 and which was today's call? I love that. I love that. Jeff still sucks. That call was horrible. Or, hey, Rome, that call was amazing. Everything about it was amazing. How can so many people hear the exact same call and have those two reactions? Again, tell me, was that the worst call ever or the best call ever? When we come back.